I think that our team has responded very well to some of the things that have happened this week that normally would be distractions, and it doesn't surprise me at all. I think it's like I've said, we've been really working hard on developing a mindset of mental toughness and discipline and poise and maturity, and I've seen that this week. So I'm encouraged by that, and I know that we'll go out and compete really, really hard on Saturday night. I was pretty brief on, was it yesterday when we talked about Myles, so I can give you guys a little bit more clarity as to what happened with Myles. He tore his meniscus. So what happens, he came out here and we were in 7-on-7, and he bumped knees with somebody, and he went down, and he wasn't able to straighten it at all. So when you can't straighten it, you feel like there's probably a piece of cartilage stuck in the joint, which was the case. So we took him right over and got an MRI, and that's what it showed. They wouldn't know the significance of the injury until they went in and took a look at it, in real life. So he hadn't eaten that day, so we were able to get him to the hospital and get him into a 3 o'clock surgery. So that normally wouldn't happen. Normally, wouldn't be a case where a guy would go off the practice field and go right into surgery. But because it was confirmed as something that was cartilage and not ligament, and he had not eaten, we were able to get him into surgery. So when they went in and they looked at it, as you go in, you're kind of thinking of 3 options. Option number 1 is you can snip the meniscus, get it out of the joint, relieve it. That was not a possibility. The other option is you can just let it go. That wasn't a possibility. The third thing is if it's a significant tear, then you have to stitch it. And when you have to stitch it, that elongates the recovery time. I've been around situations with the meniscus where in the NFL, a guy's gotten hurt on Sunday, had surgery on Monday, and played on Saturday. Unfortunately, that wasn't one of these situations, so it was more significant. But it's an anterior meniscus. It is not a ligament, but it is significant, and so that's what it is. Deep is my doctor speak, and that's about as deep as I can go into doctor speak. So, but I just think that this team is excited about this opportunity to go out and play in a big game in a crazy environment. We've been good on the road. We've won 11 in a row away from the Rose Bowl, so we feel confident that we can step into hostile environments and handle it. It still comes down to some typical things, running the football, stopping the run, protecting the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback, taking care of the football, and trying to take the football away. And just like always, that'll be our emphasis. So it's going to be a great challenge. Arizona is a fantastic football team. Rich Rod has done a great job. He's played to his strengths. Offensively, they go fast as heck, and they put a lot of pressure on you because of that. They don't give you a lot of formations and personnel groups, but boy, they go fast. I think Solomon is a tremendous player. I have a great deal of respect for him. Defensively, they fly around. It's always been kind of a hallmark of Arizona defense, or Arizona football. It's the way they play defense, starting with Dick Tomey, and they're still doing that. And if they get Scooby back, that makes them even more imposing. So if I can promise you this, we're going to go in there. We're going to lay it out there. Give it our best. We're going to play our asses off, and we're going to compete to the bitter end or the non-bitter end. It's going to be a hell of a game to watch. So I'm excited to see how we react.
Is there a chance Myles can get back for a bowl game or something like that, or is this time?
No, it's a 4 to 6 month recovery. It's a legitimate 4 to 6 month recovery, and if he were, that would be a bonus that we're not really even thinking of or counting on. And I don't think it'd be fair to put that type of pressure on him. I hate to even put time frames on any injury because, sometimes a guy gets back faster and you're accused of, maybe being misleading, or it takes longer, and then people question his work ethic. Not Myles, a player. So I think you have to be very careful when you start putting a time frame on. But when you say 4 to 6, there's a little wiggle room in there. So I think he's out for the year. I'm certain he's out for the year.
Have you had a conversation about his future here?
I've talked to Myles and his mom briefly. It's something that we'll visit on in late November. There's really no sense right now in talking about that. It's just a distraction, really. It's not where his mind's at. It's not where his mind should be. But I did talk to his mother. You know, I know you guys know this. His mom and I have been friends for a long time, and she knows that I'll give them the best advice that I can, but ultimately it'll be their decision. So you were going to say something?
No, it's all right.
Sure.
You answered it. No, I'm sure.
Which guys are you kind of not excited to see, but see a little bit more of now that Myles is going to be out? Linebackers.
You know, I think you look at last week and you saw how Isaac came in and played when Kenny was ejected. So that's encouraging. And, the fact that the first 3 weeks, you guys have seen a lot of Jayon and a lot more Cameron. So those guys have played now. You know, it's not like they're just going to go in and get their first action. Certainly it'll make us adjust a little bit in terms of some of the coverage stuff we do because, Myles had a unique ability to do a lot of things really, really well. So, I'll tell you this, a real positive for us is the fact that, the timing of the Ishmael deal,
right.
That helps us. So, but I think it's going to be, fun to watch guys take advantage of their opportunities. These are good athletes and they're competitors, and guys like Isaac and guys like Jan and guys like Cameron and then Kenny Young, stepping up. And, AWOL's role might change a little bit. And, it's just, these guys are a different group now. They're a special group of kids, and I'm confident that they'll get it done to the best of their ability. There's no fear in them, I can tell you that. No fear.
Next man up philosophy is really put to a test.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's what you have to say all the time. But I at the same time, it's important to recognize the significance of the guys that are not playing. I always used to get a kick out of that in the NFL. I mean, there's a reason that one guy makes $6 million and one guy makes minimum. It's the level of ability and value to the organization. But you can't ever play the woe is me card. And what's great about our football team and these young men and some of the backgrounds that they come from, and some of the stories that they've lived, that aren't stories, that are reality, is if they had a woe is me attitude, they would not be here at UCLA. They would not have made it to this point. They've got fight in them. And you're going to see that. That's what you're going to see. These are tough young men from some very difficult backgrounds at times who've really had to challenge themselves and been challenged through their life. And here they are starting class today at one of the great universities in America, actually in the world. So that gives you a lot of hope.
With Arizona being an unfriendly place to play, big crowd, tough environment, how do you prep a freshman quarterback to make his probably biggest road test so far?
I don't know that you can prep them other than you just talk about, focusing on what happened between the lines, and we always try to go into any environment and ignore the crowd, unless we're at home where we're trying to suck up, our crowd's energy and use it. But when we're on the road, our goal is always just go in there and just, focus on what's happening between the white lines. And we've been able to do that well. And I think with a guy like Josh, what'll help him is that he's going to have 10 guys around him on most plays that have played at Arizona, that have been in, hostile environments, that know how to handle it. He's got an offensive line in front of him that's very, very confident. He's playing very, very well. And I just feel like Josh has the right type of personality, really, from what I've seen, to handle anything. That doesn't mean he's going to be perfect, and it's not going to affect him a little bit early. It may, but I feel like he's a young man that adjusts very quickly.
What kind of, I'm sorry I got here late, I was stuck in traffic, but what kind of...
Traffic in LA?
Yeah. What kind of problems does an Arizona team present to you? Because I know they're one of the favorites to win the South, and they're a high-powered offense, blah, blah, blah. What is it?
Well, it's a high-powered offense and a very active defense. They go fast, and they put pressure on you in the way that they run their offense. They don't do a lot formationally or personnel group-wise, but what they do it very well, and they do it very fast, and they're very efficient. And then defensively, they play that 3-3-5 kind of stack thing, and they can muddy it up for you, and they're very athletic. So, and then going into that environment, it's going to be a fun time. I mean, it's really one of those things that you love about football and competition is playing in environments like that. I mean, it's fun. It gets your juices flowing.
Well, you guys are as high-powered as they are, so...
Well, I don't know. I mean, we'll find out. You know, they're pretty. We haven't scored 77 points yet, so they have probably multiple times.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thanks everyone.